Welcome to HR Voices, a podcast for independent HR and people professionals and the businesses they support. HR Voices is brought to you by the expert team at HR Independence Limited. We hope you enjoy.
Hello, welcome to HR Voices podcast. I am Mary Asante, and with me here today is my co-host Charlotte Allfrey. And we've got with us today the amazing Michelle Hartley.
Whoop, whoop.
Michelle, thank you for joining us today. It's a great pleasure to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited. Thank you for having me. I feel really important. It's cool.
Excellent. Michelle was the winner of HR Rise Awards this year, Inspirational Indie Categories, and she is absolutely inspirational. I was just saying to you before we started recording that I love all the work you do. I'm a big fan because you present this persona of HR that most HR people shy away from. You're bright, you're bubbly, you're lively, and you say as it is. And I think a breath of fresh air for HR.
Oh, thank you. I genuinely, I love that. And I think the phrase "a breath of fresh air" has followed me throughout my whole career, which is really weird. So even when I was in employed life, everybody would be saying to me, "Oh, you're such a breath of fresh air." And I never really got it. And then when I went to becoming independent, I suddenly realized that nobody else was doing this stuff, but it's just me, wearing Larry colors, having fun. There's always something funny to be found in the world of HR, right? Even when it's disaster time, there's always something where you're like, oh my word, this is hilarious. So there's always something. And so I'm really glad that comes across in what I put out into the world, because I do think it's so important. It's so many HR people just hide behind this beige mask, don't they? And I just think we can be real humans as well. So I'm glad that comes through for you.
Absolutely. All right. So congratulations once again on winning the Inspirational Indies Award. It's it's a competitive category, and your nominations, what people say about you, etc., was inspirational, truly inspirational. So I would say very well deserved. Congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I genuinely felt and I remember saying this to Charlotte on the day, when I was hearing all my fellow nominees summaries being read out, I was like, oh, I've not got it. I've not got it. These people are awesome. And then when my name was read out, I was mortified. Oh my God, I've actually won it. She just said my name. And I remember standing up and giving you a big hug, Charlotte, because I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. So I'm genuinely so pleased. So thank you. Thank you very much. I'm genuinely really pleased. I couldn't believe I'd won it, to be honest. You can see I've got a little picture up there of me accepting my award. And then there's my certificate and there's my award. So it's all on display every day.
We had lots of nominations. It was an easy category to judge because there was, lots of nominations for you. So that's really heartwarming, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely. It genuinely is lovely. I'm genuinely my heart is full. It's just a lovely feeling to have. So yeah, it's nice to know that all the things that we do all the time, people have noticed it and said something about it. So yeah, I'm genuinely still blown away by it. So yeah, it's lovely.
Excellent. So this particular episode is part of the mini series we're doing on the HR consultants journey. We've done a series before this talking about people looking at how they started, how they've grown their businesses. Some have gone down different routes, and we've explored all those facets of it. And as Charlotte will put it, this set of mini series is looking at our award winners and what their journey has been like. So in Charlotte's words, what good looks like. So we are hoping to continue to inspire people through this episode. So we'd like to talk a bit maybe about your journey, and then we'll talk about how you go about inspiring people so that so many people will come out and say, hey, look, Michelle, she's inspirational, and you truly are. Yeah.
That feels like a lot of pressure. I've suddenly got sweaty. I don't know if that's perimenopause or just the thought of doing that.
Absolutely, just be you. We really just want to know who Michelle is, how your journey started, what makes you that unicorn that stands out from everyone else. And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think what I always find really interesting. So when I think about like my self-employed life, I never wanted to be self-employed. So it's the weirdest situation for me now to be talking to people about going self-employed because I didn't want to do it. I was like resisting it, like cats. You know, you try and move cats. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But I always wanted to get to my next corporate role. So I finished my last corporate role, which is an HR director role, and I enjoyed it. I absolutely enjoyed it. But I got to that space where I was like, I've been here 7 years, and if it stays to 8, it's going to be 20. And you know, you get that like, if I don't go now, I'm going to be here forever. So I handed in my notice in early 2020. And then, of course, COVID hit, which was a wonderful time for all HR professionals. And so I stayed on longer to see them through COVID, which was the right thing to have done. But then, of course, I ended up just feeling really burnt out from all of it. So I took a little chunk of time off in the summer, which wasn't really the time off I'd planned because I was locked in my house with everybody else. So it wasn't like the restful time that I planned. And then I sort of was getting a load of interviews, loads of interactions, you know, loads of good, you know, bites for people that wanted to take me on for the next corporate role. None of them really set me afire. So I was like, well, I could do that, but it doesn't sing to me. Like I could do that, but it's not my thing. Or, you know, it's the same set of tools, just in a different space. And I just didn't know that I wanted that. So nothing really set me afire. And then I reached out to another consultant just to say, like, I want to keep my brain going. I think I can help you. I love design. I don't really know what I want to do yet, but, you know, let me make you some infographics. I'll do it for free. I just want to keep myself going and be on the computer and stuff. And she said, well, why don't you just come and do a bit of work for me? Like, I've got some, you know, some L&D stuff going on. I've got some client work, and we can do the design bit if that's what you fancy. So that's where it started. And I just thought, oh, if I can just earn enough to pay for my car, that'll do. Because that was my one trapping of corporate life that I couldn't let go of. I don't know why. Nowadays, I don't care. But at the time, I was like, I can't let go of the car. That's a big failure if I have to let go of the car. So I just wanted to earn enough to pay for my car. So I just started doing it. And on my first day, I sold to an ex-manager of mine 2 consultancy days, and my target was only 500 quid a month, and I sold these 2 consultancy days for like £1,600 at the time, and I was like, oh, I might need a bigger goal. And then all of a sudden it just kind of went from there. So it ended up being like a really interesting like challenge for me in terms of thinking about what the next thing could be and how it could work. And so when I then kind of stepped out into proper, you know, when I was like, okay, I'll give it a go, I then had some interesting times around what I could do and what I loved to do and what people would pay me for. And actually, they're really different things. So when I thought about what I could do, I genuinely thought, well, I'll just be an outsourced HRD for companies that can't afford one. So I'll just do all of the HRDing, all of that HR stuff when they can't afford an HR person, and I'll do that, which I did start to do. But again, it didn't set me afire, and it just felt like the same old. And I just thought, oh, this isn't, I don't know, this isn't what I want. And I really missed having my team around me for like the development, for the banter, for the fun. And that is where then this HR for HR little light bulb started to glow. And I created the HR Geeks Squad. And again, I genuinely thought, right, if I can get 20 people, we can just have fun. It will feel like a team again. And that's what we'll do. And I'm now at 99 members, which is beautiful, but it's really cool. Go on.
That's amazing. Just tell people a little bit about HR Geeks Squad.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's hilarious. So how it started was going to be like a monthly webinar series on topics that the geeks choose. So what happens is they say, oh, I'd love a session on cyclical working, menopause, facilitation, all that kind of stuff. And basically I'd be, and this is me aging myself, I'd be like Challenge Annika, and I'd go out and find some awesome people to come and speak about it. So I'd go out and find them all. So that's where it all started. And I had some really good sessions, and we've had some brilliant ones. And we all get together once a month live on Zoom, and we have these sessions, and I do record them as well. And then I wanted it to be like more than that. So I wanted it to be like a community feel. I wanted that team feel for myself, and I wanted us to be able to share stuff because of the geeking part of it. So I also had a WhatsApp group with everybody in it. Oh my word. So I call it the feral WhatsApp group because if you can imagine, I think we've got 80 people on there now, but you can imagine 80 like feral, hyperactive, hilarious like close to the bone HR people. Like some of the stuff we have in there is just brilliant. But what's lovely about it now is it's almost become its own thing. So it almost like manages and runs itself. So, you know, I can just drop in and drop something in, but everybody will comment or we'll all have a bit of a joke. Like this week, I also do like a question of the week. And this week was, when's the Christmas tree going up? And oh my word, we've had so much banter about where people's Christmas trees go up. But that's the kind of thing. And it really feels like, you know, a lovely little community. So it's just a nice space for HR people. And I just felt that when I was in corporate life, that's what I tried to create. You know, my team is always my safe space. And so that for me is now what Geeks has become. And I think I would have wanted that when I was a corporate HR pro, is just a space where I could just become like, oh my word, guess what just happened? Like, and that's how it works. So yeah, that's kind of it really, basically HR safe space, a little bit of learning once a month and a lot of laughter. So yeah, that's the Geeks.
That's amazing. That is incredible. That, and I think there are opportunities for collaboration, for community, for whatever, for HR people. I think HRI was born out of something similar for the independent community, which is really no one is looking out for independence in the same way as we need, and it's what is missing when you started out. But so it's really amazing. I think it will be great to learn more about the Geek Squad and what we can probably do from time to time in terms of collaborating together and stuff like that. I'm all up for collaboration all the time. So
definitely.
Incredible, and it's amazing. So when the next thing that I want to explore a bit more is when you started out, I know it's not something that you set off to do, but it found you almost, which sometimes happens. At what point did you think, actually, I'm not going back to corporate life anymore?
Yeah, that's a really good question, you know, because as ever, there's a story. But I actually was looking at still keeping one eye on the corporate stuff going on, and I'd secured a role. So I got a part-time chief people officer role, and it's not on my LinkedIn, but I took this role because I was like, oh my God, this is my dream. Like, it's chief people officer, it's part-time, it's in a consultancy, like it's employed, it gives me all the security I need with like part-time space to then do my bit. So like it was a dream. So it all seemed to land in the right time. But what happened was when I started the chief people officer role, literally from day one, I just missed my business. I just missed like everything about my biz. Like I missed not being able to interact with the geeks in the same way. I missed not having enough time to focus on LinkedIn, and I missed that kind of client work and the stuff that I was doing. So I guess what it did for me, ironically, getting the corporate role that I wanted sharpened my focus about my business and what I wanted. So then what happened was I very politely said, no, thank you. I did try for 6 weeks. I tried really hard. But it just didn't connect, and I just thought, no, it's not fair to them or to me to keep pushing it through. Although old Michelle would have been like, just get a year done, it'll be fine. I've got no tolerance now, and that's probably why I can't be employed anymore. But I basically then was like, right, I've got to cut this dead, and I've got to now focus on my biz. And it's almost, I think, having that opportunity made me realize that this is what I really wanted. So once that kind of switch was flicked in my head, I then went and got, you know, all my brand properly done. I got my logos properly made. I had a brand photo shoot, which sounds so weird to say, but I had like a brand photo shoot. I really started to focus on, you know, what I wanted to put out into the world, because having to cut my time down from, you know, 6 days a week to 2 suddenly made me realize the stuff that I lived. So that's when, you know, all the programs, the awesome programs, the Geek Squad, all that really came into proper focus for me. So I think it was ironically getting the job that I really wanted then made me realize.
So I was going to say, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because there's a lot of push and pull as a consultant, and we hear that a lot when you talk to other consultants. There's always that one toe over in employment. And you know, just that exploration and just not going to close any doors. And I hear a lot, and I have a lot of conversations with people around the push pull and do I, don't I, shall I, shan't I.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? And I do too, when, you know, a lot of new consultants will come to me and say, oh, how do you do what you do? Or what, you know, what can I help you with? And I do a lot of those kind of chats with people as well. And it's just, I think for me, it was almost like I'd accepted that I wanted to feel my way through this experience in my life. Whereas when I was in corporate, I was really vicious, is that the wrong word? But I was really vicious about, this goal is what's happening this year. I will achieve this by then. I will do that, and I had a very clear plan. And then when I went to self-employed life, I just kind of felt like I just want to feel my way through. Like I just want to see what sings to me. I want to follow the joy is the phrase I use, but I want to follow the joy and work out what sings to me. And it's funny now when I talk to people, I say that to them all the time. I'm like, don't put yourself in a box of, plain HR consultancy or pure ER or pure L&D. Just play with it, see what comes up for you, see how you feel about it, network with other consultants, pass each other work, all those things I never would have done in corporate life. And so it's a really weird new space for me to be in, to accept that actually it's okay to feel your way through and it's okay to try things like a corporate job and then choose the self-employed life. It's really interesting. It's a different space for me in terms of like mindset than I've ever had before, but I love it.
Yeah, I think it's something that's coming across quite consistently from all the chats that we're having with consultants, which is, yes, we are all HR consultants, but there is more room for collaboration than there is for competition. So
Yes.
when you're starting out, there's no need in thinking that, oh gosh, there's another HR consultant, my competitor. Even if you are geographically based in the same location, there is still room for that collaboration, support, etc., that you can get from other consultants. That
exactly. And I always say that to people. That's one of the first things I say actually, is there's enough work for everybody. And it's funny when you say it to new consultants, it's almost like all the tension goes out of them. Like they just go, oh yeah, and actually I've had, as we all do, feast and famine months where you've had a quiet month and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this feels a bit scary. But, there's always enough work. Something always comes in, or there's something where I'm like, oh, I could use this time to create something, and that in that space, something will happen. And I genuinely do think there's enough work there for everybody. I mean, I pass work to people all the time. People pass work to me because, if you're well networked in your consultant community, you know what people love to do, you know what their specialisms are, you know what their thing is, and you want to pass the work to the best person, right? And I wouldn't ever pass work to somebody who I didn't know could do a great job for me. So I think it's really important. And that's where the network comes in. And actually, I think a lot of HR consultants think that they start and they have to be by themselves. Well, it's me now. I'm an independent. That's how it works. And actually, it isn't. It's about, for me anyway, it's about that, that invisible network of people that, will help you, support you, chat to you, have that like howling moment where you've messed something up. But that's what it's about, right? Is having that safe space.
great stuff. Being an inspirational indie is really about being there for other indies, supporting them, etc. So just tell us a bit about how you go about inspiring other indies that you come across in your network.
That sounds really, when you're saying it, I feel really like hot and sweaty and a little bit sick. Like I inspire people. I don't know. I think sometimes it's just like giving people that little confidence boost, because I think when I was doing the, casting my bread upon the water, chatting to people about what I wanted to do, because I still didn't know, what I found was lovely was that everybody was so like welcoming, friendly, happy, helpful. And I'd never really experienced that before, because for me in the corporate life, it was dog eat dog. Everybody was out for themselves. It's very political. You really had to put your armor on. Whereas what I found when I was talking to people was that, open, friendly, helpful, supportive network thing. So I guess that's where I sort of start really. So I think I always try and be helpful and kind in anything that I do with anybody that asks me. I try and reach out to other people to support them. I've got this weird thing about like words. Like I love to do like word play, language play, weird stuff. Like I don't know, you have like a little superpower skill. Mine is like weird words. But a lot of my HR consultant friends will come to me and they'll say, I've written this program. Here's the content. What can I call it? And I'm like, oh my God, you need to call it Spice Girls or whatever. Because and they'll go, oh, you're amazing. So I do a lot of that kind of stuff as well, where it's like creative. I suppose it's like creative, like brainstorming, ideation type stuff. But I do a lot of that, which is really good fun. And I also try and help other people when they're stuck on something. So a lot of people will say to me, oh, got this thing. I want to do this, but I don't know how to get it out. And I'll be like, oh, why don't you do this? So I'll do some of that almost like facilitation support as well. But I just try and be normal. Like people who ask you for help on the street, you would help them, right? So I just think it's the same principle for me. If someone's like brave enough to reach out and say, I love what you do, can we have a chat? Of course, I'm going to say yes. I mean, my diary doesn't quite permit that right now, but in time, I always try and make time for people to have, you know, a cup of tea and a chat, or, you know, some kind of help with posting, or, you know, whatever they need support with, always try and help. So I don't know if that really answers your question. That doesn't sound very inspirational when you say it, but I just try and be available and accessible to people for help.
I absolutely think it does. And I think there is this thing about, especially when you're talking about mental health month, mental health week, etc., there is this thing about the little things that you do for people
Yeah.
can be the biggest thing for their day,
Yeah.
or in their life at that point in time. So I do think, yes, it absolutely does. And yeah, if someone's pulled the content together and they're struggling, the only thing they're struggling with is, what do I call this program? And you come up with, and they love it and it works.
Yeah.
Yes, that means the world to them, because it means they can then take that content and go and deliver it to their clients or to wherever. So absolutely it does. And when you're starting out, I think one of the things, and it goes back again to why HRI exists, is when you're starting out, one, it's a scary world out there, and you step your foot into it, and all the comfort blanket of team resources, of everything is stripped off, and you
Yeah.
suddenly find out, oh, I'm on my own. Who do I put
Yeah.
the phone up to? Who do I do this? Who do I do that? And not depending on your role and what industry you work in, not everyone would have that camaraderie around them to
Yeah.
say, oh, hey, can you help me? So
Yeah.
again, that absolutely can make someone's day, and it can mean the difference between being able to pursue that consultancy journey to running back to corporate because it's too scary out there.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. That is very true. Yeah, I think you're right there, actually. It's an interesting point, isn't it? Because I think a lot of us don't, or certainly I didn't anyway, but didn't feel like I could ask for help, because obviously when you're corporate, top of the tree, you have to be the expert in everything. Whereas, you know, it's great when in consultancy life you can kind of almost say, oh, I need some help with this. What can I do? You know, and it's wonderful that it's there, isn't it? I just think it's so helpful.
Yeah, but I do think this is something that's come out of the pandemic as well, because I think actually there was, you know, an army of HR professionals who kept a lot of organizations going.
Yes.
But also they had, you know, difficult stuff to deal with. And actually, as professionals, particularly in the ER field, we do deal with a lot of difficult stuff day in, day out. And actually to have that support network around you where you can ring someone and say, you don't, you know, you're not going to believe what's just happened, or that I just had the most terrible conversation with somebody, or something awful, or something really funny, you know, and I've really had to sit and try and bite my lip and my tongue in a disciplinary hearing because I can't believe what somebody just said. It's really good to have that community and that network to be able to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like it's almost it's sharing the whole thing, isn't it? So
Yeah.
it's the, you know, the fears, the woes, the funnies. You know, I love all of that. Like that, it really lights me up actually to know that everybody has those moments, and it's great to be able to share them, isn't it? One of my, I obviously won't name this person, but one of my HR consultancy colleagues sent an email to somebody in error, and it was a person that's being made redundant, and so she was in full like, oh, guess what I've just done. And so what was hilarious was we all jumped in and were like, we've all done it. It's going to be fine. Like, you were professional. Everything's okay. But it's that horror moment, isn't it, that you just need to share with somebody that understands. So yeah, I totally get that. And that's so important to have, especially when you're an indie.
Definitely. Okay, so obviously we don't want to take up too much of your time today because you've been very kind and generous in fitting us into the very busy diary at the moment. But what would be your sort of top tips for somebody perhaps starting out on their indie journey?
Yeah, it's a good one. This is a really good question. And so I would say the first thing is be prepared to feel it out. Like, don't be scared to change it. You know, you might set yourself up in your head as, I don't know, the world's best employee relations consultant ever in the world.com. And actually, what you might find as you start working your way through that is you really enjoy training people on ER or something, or, you know, you might really enjoy coaching HR professionals on ER or whatever. So don't be too rigid in what you think you want to do, because actually being able to just feel your way through can make a real change. And I think probably my tip number 2 would be like network galore. Like, make as many friends as you can, talk to people who are self-employed, not just in HR. So, outside of HR, I've met some great like marketing, social selling, IT, health and wellbeing consultants, all in those different spaces. But it's great because actually they're going through the same stuff as well. You just don't realize it, that actually it's a freelancer life. And then I think just remember to enjoy it. Like too much of the time, personally anyway, like I'm like, well, I must do this thing and I must do that thing and I've got to pay this and I've got to do that. And actually you forget that I'm supposed to be enjoying this. And I don't know if you were the same when you started out, but when I started, I was like working from 8 till 6, rigid to my desk, like literally nailing myself to my desk, fully dressed and ready at 8 o'clock, ready to go until 6 p.m. And actually now what I do is a little bit like following the joy. But if actually I don't have meetings, I'll treat myself to a slow start. Or, if I've got a gap in the afternoon, I'll go and get a coffee. Like remember that independent life is about what you want to make it. And I think that was a biggie for me. And it took me probably about a year to realize that. But actually like have the nap, get the coffee, go for the walk, do the nice thing. So I think that's a good thing, is like remembering to enjoy it, because I think it's too easy to forget that when you're buried in all the scary stuff, like doing your own IT. Do you go VAT registered? Like how do I do accounts? Where do I charge this? Like, so I think remembering to enjoy it and giving yourself that gift is a nice thing to do.
Great advice.
And don't come to me because I didn't do it right.
Well, you did something right. You won an award.
That's true. Wear bright colours and enjoy rainbow life. That maybe that's the goal.
Yeah, I think that you are absolutely right, especially your last tip, because when you start off, if you're not, when you are farming, you kind of go, oh my goodness, how am I going to pay the bill? How am I going to do this? And you really panic and you freak out. And then when you get busy, you worry about, oh, how am I going to deliver? How am I going to play? How am I going to do this and that? And you get lost in all that. So you forget that, yes, you're right. Most people start out by wanting a better life balance, work-life balance, wanting to have a bit more time to spend with the family or to go out for coffee and do this and to be able to do all that. But the reality is, if you don't become disciplined about it, you'll never be able to enjoy any of those stuff, and you never make the time for it. So,
exactly. Yeah, it genuinely took me so long to realize that as well. And I think I was sat here genuinely and was like, wait a minute, I can do what I want. It's almost like that adult, when you first live by yourself as an adult and you go, I can have cake for breakfast if I want. Is that kind of moment of like, oh my word, I can go out for a coffee. Like it just suddenly hit me that's what you could do. So I think that's always important to remember that. Like you own it, you can do what you want.
And that's what makes it difficult to go back, isn't it? Because then we become a little bit too militant. And, when you sort of go into that sort of controlled environment, but it's, it's like, but I want to go out for coffee and meet somebody and have a networking conversation. It's like, no, you've got some work to do. So I think that's what makes it very hard, isn't it? And that's the juggle. I definitely, very similar to you, was definitely in the category of I'm going to sit at my desk because I'm conditioned to do so.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to sit here and sort of twiddle my thumbs and think, okay, so I haven't got any work. What am I going to do? Oh, let's faff around and procrastinate and find other things. So it's definitely a mindset shift. It really is, particularly in the beginning.
Totally agree. Yeah, I even wore shoes in the beginning. Did you do that? I even wore shoes. Yeah. Like I was proper. Yeah. Now, just for the benefit of the video, check these out. That's what I wear now.
I seem to remember when the pandemic started to lift, getting ready to go to meetings and thinking I was actually going to go out and do an in-person meeting. Yeah. Stepping outside the front door, keys, handbag, umbrella, coat, and then thinking, why does this feel wrong? And looking down and realising I still have my slippers on. And having to come back in the house, unlock the house, come back in and find some shoes.
Yeah, brilliant. My trip out after lockdown was for work, and I was on the train to London, and I was like, why do I feel so awful? Like, this is really horrible. And it's because I had to wear shoes, because my feet were so used to slippers, they'd sort of spread. And then when I was wearing shoes, I was like, oh, this is really horrible. And it's all pinchy and I don't like it.
It's funny what you get used to.
It is.
The good thing now is that people are becoming more accepting of trainers and stuff like that.
Yes.
Squeeze into some stilettos and all that.
Yeah, I tell you what, my stilettos, they've been retired. They're gone now. They're dead to me forever.
Excellent.
So, okay. Thank you so much, Michelle. It's been amazing, and we can continue for a long time because it's just great fun speaking to you. And so, yeah, thank you very much for coming and sharing with us your journey and also how you go about inspiring people. Keep on being inspirational and then keep on being you, because I think you are really fantastic at what you do. And for our listeners, thank you very much for tuning in, for listening and for watching us to this episode. And if you want to get in touch, as in suggest topics that you think we can talk about, or if you want to come on as a guest, please get in touch via hrvoices@hrindependent.co.uk, and we'd love to hear from you. So keep watching and keep listening out for our future episodes. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of HR Voices. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover or would like to be a guest, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media or email us at hrvoices@hrindependence.co.uk. Tune in next time.